football, basketball, baseball, and more. Your source for ACC sports is ACC Nation. Available on podcast, streaming radio, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe.
Hey, welcome to ACC Nation. Will Ogenet, and I'm Jim Quist, and we're going to talk ACC sports. Thanks for letting us join you. Let's get into the first and most obvious thing that we haven't touched base on since it happened was Miami coming up a little bit short in the CFP championship game against Indiana. A struggle for the Canes up to a point, but they started coming back and things were looking really good. And I just was having deja vu all over again. I felt like I was watching my Bears, man. It was just not to be. So a good effort though. A good game, I think, overall. I mean, there was the one thing that I think you and I both agree on here is reffing this year. This game was a good example, but reffing this year has sucked. You guys, I don't know what the deal is, but I mean, there were so many obvious penalties that were not being called on both sides. This isn't picking on one side or the other. This is just saying that, it was almost every play, just felt that way.
Yeah, I'm for letting things go, as long as you're consistent. I thought they let too much go, quite frankly.
Good.
The play early in the game where Mendoza took the shot after the RPO handoff, and he's literally he's bleeding from the mouth, and then you look at the replay and it was a clear targeting that they didn't even bother reviewing or anything. There were some defensive holdings and pass interference calls that probably should have been called that they just let go. I mean, yeah, I thought, like I said, I think I'm fine if they want to let some stuff go, but I thought they were a little too liberal in that use.
Yeah, way too much. In other football news, Duke quarterback Darian Mensah has been cleared by a judge to go ahead and transfer to Miami. So this is the downside of NIL and the transfer portal. You have a contract with a team, and it is, I'm sure, probably going to go ahead and go through the court process. But what I read indicates to me that probably the worst thing that's going to happen is that Mensah or somebody representing Mensah is going to have to fork over $4 million to Duke because that was part of the contract, and we'll see that play out in the courts and see what it means.
So the last thing I read is that he technically can't commit to a school, I think, until the hearing, which is in in a couple of weeks. And I think then we're going to get the picture will be a lot clearer for what Mensah will have to do to go to Miami. I hate it. But what are you going to do? I hate the fact that he signed a something to return and basically reneged on that.
Yeah.
And without any repercussions, quite frankly. I mean, until they're employees, you can't, until they're employees, he can keep doing this. I mean, we saw the situation with the Washington quarterback when I think it was LSU was trying to do it, but he ended up deciding to stick with the Huskies. And but yeah, this is the part of the NIL thing that people hate, or things like this. It's not healthy, but I just don't know unless they start turning them to actual employees. This is going to be a thing.
The lawyers will be making lots of money off of it one way or
another. Oh yeah. Yep. Lawyers are getting paid. Billable hours always.
Writing stuff that's incomplete and doesn't cover all bases. But I mean, this is brand new ground, so I'm sure that from a legal perspective, that there's some stuff that you're looking at and you're going, well, what if, or what if, or what if, or what if, but you can't cover all the what ifs. So, and I guess that's where you probably would have a team looking at it and going through stuff and saying, well, have you thought about this or have you thought about that? And I'm sure a lot of that is going on. I mean, I know enough lawyers. I have one in my family who is, you know, he can argue before the Supreme Court, and that takes a lot to get to that point. Um, so, every once in a while I'll throw some stuff by him just to see his reaction, and he's pretty adamant about things. I haven't tried this one out on him, but I may because I'm going to be seeing him soon. Way too early. Top 25s are out already, and here's what I want to tell you. They're useless. Stay away from them. They are purely clickbait. Oh my God. I've seen some of them, and it's like, have you folks not learned to continually pump out this crap, which nobody believes anymore because we've seen enough now of these preseason polls that say that this team, that team, or that conference is going to absolutely dominate. And it turns out to be just the opposite. And all of those teams get booted out and don't even make it into the CFP championship game. So, or they get booted out early. So come on, learn something here. Don't crank out this garbage and try to force feed it to your fans. They're sitting there going, this guy doesn't have any more credibility. I won't even get near him. Every time I see something like this, I just boom, I'm on to the next thing. I advise you to do the same thing.
Um,
Yeah.
I'll just interject real quick. Yeah, it's gotten harder to do these because of the portal. I mean, if it was, if it was pre-transfer portal and you knew what players were coming back, what freshmen were coming in, yeah, you
And
could start thinking ahead, okay, this team should be really good this year because they return 8 starters on offense and 9 on defense. Oh, they
huh?
should be improved. They should be a conference contender. Now it's, let's see, they lost 12 people on offense
Hmm.
and another 12 on defense. So
Yeah.
they brought in a quarterback from Central Connecticut to compete for the starting job, and they brought in a running back from Ohio. And you never know how it all is going to work.
Yeah.
Take a look at the team that lost the ACC championship game. They
Yeah.
were projected to finish towards the bottom of the league, and they were one win away from going to the college football playoff.
There you go.
That's just how unpredictable it is. I mean, I looked at it right quick. Miami at 13 seems a bit high because I know they're likely going to land Darian Mensah, but Ruben Bain's gone, Akeem Mesidor's gone. They lose a couple of their stud linemen. They lose a lot of really talented people, and I hesitate to put them that high next year. But we have 7 months before these games are going to play. Almost 7.5 months almost.
And so
And
what did we hear during the football previews
mhm,
this prior to the season over the summer? What did we hear repeatedly from the people that we talked to?
a lot of I don't knows and a lot of ifs.
Yeah. It's I don't recognize any of these players. This
Yeah.
is a complete overhaul of the roster. I
Hmm.
mean, it was repeatedly every team that we previewed was that way, and
Yeah.
it was like, oh man, I can see why nobody really has a clue as to
Hmm.
what's going to be on the field. We don't have an idea. So anybody that's kicking something around the can around at this point, talking
Yeah.
about next fall.
And remember, there's no more second portal, so that's it.
Yep. Oh, well, we do have the final AP and coaches top 25s. And just to throw out those here real quickly for the ACC teams, Miami came in at number 2, Virginia at 16 in both of them, SMU at number 28 in the AP, at number 24 over on the coaches side was Georgia Tech. Then on the AP, it's 29 Duke. Then SMU comes in at 28 over in the coaches poll. Georgia Tech at 31 in the AP. Duke at 29 in the AP, the coaches poll. Louisville at 34 in the AP. Louisville at 33 in the coaches. Wake Forest at 37 in the AP. 34 in the coaches. And then there was a singular vote for Pitt, and that puts them at number 40. So that's the final two top 25s from AP and coaches over in USA Today. Reasonable in some levels. I think when we start getting into the, some of this is fascinating. Looking at having basically the third team out of the ACC here. In the AP, it's SMU, and the coaches, it's Georgia Tech. I just found that really interesting that was going on. That's an interesting dynamic going on.
Yeah, and I'm just going to real quick talk about the two teams that finished in the ranking. This was the best finish in the AP poll for Miami since 2002 when they lost the national championship game. And for Virginia, it was their the first time they actually finished in the poll since I think it was 2005, so over 20 years. So it tells you just how awesome like the season was for Virginia. We obviously know Miami's season ending in the loss in a national championship game.
But nonetheless, they were there. And I keep thinking back about how the ACC set this up, and everybody is like, when this was happening, everybody was yelling at the ACC, the entity, and saying, why did you do this? Why did you do this? How come we've got this mess where we've got Virginia and Duke playing in the championship, blah, blah, blah. And remind everybody that it was your coaches and your ADs who all voted on this to do it this way. And so if you vote on it to be like this and it happens, I mean, who could have ever projected something like this happening? I mean, really? But that's why you sit down and you talk it out and you go, but what if we get 5 teams that are all tied? These are the types of things you look at, and sometimes you just have to experience it and you go, okay, what do we do to fix that? And I'm going to be interested in seeing what all of these coaches and ADs do. They come together and say, okay, let's figure out a way to make this correct this issue. And if Virginia had defeated Duke, we would have had 2 teams from the conference in the CFP. We talked a little bit about AP and the USA Today coaches polls and how teams ended up there. Let's take a look at the NFL Spin Zone's NFL mock draft. Now, this is never too early to talk about a mock draft. There's a lot of ACC players that are projected to go in the first round. I think it's fascinating to take a look at this. This is a very early one. This is one of the first I've looked at. Going at number 3 is offensive tackle Francis Mauigoa of Miami. At 4 is edge Ruben Bain, also out of Miami. Then we got 2 Clemson players, actually 3. At 14, defensive lineman Peter Woods. 18, cornerback Avion Terrell, and at 20, edge T.J. Parker. And finally, another Miami player at number 30, edge Akeem Mesidor. And I'm not surprised by any of these guys being in that first round whatsoever. Mendoza is, in case anybody was wondering, is the top pick projected at this point in the mock draft.
Yeah, I'm very curious just to focus on Ruben Bain for a second. I'm very curious to see his where he ends up. I thought he made himself a lot more money with his performance in the college football playoff. We've seen him be very, very good, in his 3 years at Miami, and there's the question of his arm length, and which I think is kind of ridiculous. I mean, yes, it's he's probably doing it against some people who will probably play another no, never play another down of organized football ever again. But even still, in some of these bigger games, he's shown up.
Oh yeah.
He's going to be he should get drafted really high in the first round. I think top 10, quite frankly, and he's gonna have an amazing career.
Yeah, he's just been a pleasure to watch when you look at what he's capable of doing when his motor's on. He is just solid when it comes down to just penetrating and tossing people. So, I mean, he was literally tossing people aside, and you don't see that very often. The person that comes back to mind for me is Donald out of Pitt, um, doing something very similar to that when he was playing. So uh, it's going to be fun to watch the NFL draft, which is coming up in I think what April.
Yeah, so about 3 months.
Yeah, it'll go a lot quicker than people think. Pitt's Olivia Babcock was named the Honda Sport Award winner for volleyball. It's her second straight season receiving that award, which is pretty phenomenal. She is a pleasure to watch when she's just tearing things up. Um, Also, I'm going to have to go to my phone here to pull this up because I don't have it on my computer. This is the IWLCA Division One preseason poll for women's lacrosse. At number one, North Carolina. Number three, Boston College. Number five, Stanford. Number 10, Virginia. 12, Clemson. 13, Syracuse. 14, Duke. Any more in there? Let's see. Notre Dame comes in at 25. Just absolutely dominating, as always. It's kind of an East Coast sport, to be honest with you, but nonetheless, it's always neat to see that. That's a preseason look, and I know the guys are going to be out before long. Um,
Can you believe baseball season's only a few weeks away?
yeah, I can't.
I
It's
Hard
pretty.
for me to think about baseball right now when it's about to be like 10 below for a high in a couple of days, and yeah, it's
Oh, for you, yeah,
hard for me to be thinking about baseball in a temperature like that.
yeah. D1 softball has their preseason out, and I don't have that up on my screen. If you could find that, that would be great. D1 softball's preseason top 25, and maybe we'll take a quick look at that too. That was one that I couldn't grab. I was kind of running short on time before we got started here. But it was on my mind.
All right, here we go. D1 softball top 25. Let's see. Of ACC teams, we have Florida State in at number 7, Clemson 15, Duke at 16, Stanford 18, Virginia Tech 20, and Virginia at 25.
Very good. Nice showing. Nice showing. We'll see how that all. And that's right around the corner too. It's like everything
Hmm.
is sneaking up on us. And I think it's in part because the football season extended. You know, when it goes that much longer, and then of course, by the time we get around to the Super Bowl, we'll be into to probably baseball pretty close. Um, well,
Yeah, the first baseball games are February 13th.
right. Okay. Um, the NCAA's Andy Katz is projecting, this is his first projection for 2026, 8 teams from the ACC in the tournament. And those teams include Duke as the top seed, Virginia at number 4, Clemson 5, Louisville and UNC at 6, Stanford, I'll get to Stanford here in a second, SMU and Miami are 8th, and Stanford is at 11, and they have to play in order to get that spot. Now we'll see whether or not that changes as time goes on here. And we'll talk a little bit about the net for both the men and the women. But let's talk, Will, about what's been going on basketball wise for the men in the ACC, because this has been um, crazy, um,
Hmm.
and I think it's what we're used to in the past, and it's so
Hmm.
nice to see a return to it. Though it's kind of disruptive in a lot of ways. There's a
Hmm.
lot of people, fans of certain teams that are scratching their heads and going, "What's going on here?" Um, it's very important before we get to this net rankings to talk about are they getting quadrant one wins and or losses that are so important, or are they slipping into the 3 and 4 category and basically pushing themselves out of basically contention for getting into the tournament?
Yeah, so I'll just go back to Saturday and just highlight some of the outcomes of note. Virginia won at SMU by 4, really good game. The Who's were able to hold off SMU. That was their fourth quad one win of the season. The Who's are 8-2 in the first two quadrants, 16-2 overall, and they're number 13 in the net. But other outcomes of consequence, and UNC ended up getting swept in the two games in Cal. Remember, they lost to Stanford about a week ago, and then they lost at Cal 84-78. An interesting matchup. Clemson beat Miami by 10. Um, Probably the most surprising outcome of the week was NC State losing at home to Georgia Tech 78-74. And I talked about this on our ACC Nation TikTok that this NC State team has made absolutely no sense whatsoever this season. We've seen them just really in the last handful of games. They struggled with Boston College, beat Florida State by a billion, and then lost at home to Georgia Tech. And then we'll get in. And then Tuesday, they ended up winning at Clemson to hand Clemson their first conference loss of the season. So right now, Duke is the only undefeated team left in the conference. Miami also lost at home to Florida State by 2. It's a tough loss for the Hurricanes. That ends up being a quad 3 loss. Florida State at 116 in the net. So that's a bad loss for them. Um, and as we're going, there are two games. We're recording this on Wednesday. North Carolina's already up 19 on Notre Dame, so they're well on their way to a win there. Boston College actually has looked a little more competitive lately. They beat Syracuse at home and are, as we speak, are beating Pitt, but that's early in the second half.
I was a little bit concerned for North Carolina because those 2 losses were devastating,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and they're I mean, obviously Notre Dame is not nearly on their level, but and
mhm,
Saturday is going to be the litmus test with them traveling to Charlottesville to take on Virginia.
yeah,
Maybe.
absolutely. See, this is a good point because I think the weather probably will be the deciding factor here. I think they'll
Hmm.
probably call this game off. Um,
Yeah, reschedule it or something. What's the as of recording, what is the estimate for snow?
well, depends on who you want to listen to. Personally, I am a big fan of the European model for weather,
Mhm.
and as opposed to the American model, I think it's the European is much more accurate. But better than 22 inches, and then throw on top of that a pretty heavy sleet event after the fact. So we'll see. I mean, forecast is all over the place, and it's too far. It's too far out. This is the thing, and and I will just say this. Um, people go, "Oh, what do you know about weather?" Okay, well, let me just put it to you this way. One, I worked in radio and television pretty extensively, including news. Uh, Two, I worked as a first responder, as a captain, and was heavily involved in emergency preparedness and dealt with a pretty nasty snowstorm where I was up for 36 hours straight. And God help me, I hope I never have to do that again. I don't think I will, but um, I would just say that's my background. So I know where to look. I know how to interpret. I know how to read. I also have a lot of friends with the Department of Transportation in the state, and the information that they're getting, which is completely different than what you hear on radio and TV, is far more accurate. What they're getting is also indicating it's going to be a major storm, a very, very severe storm. So that being said, I'm going with the 20 plus inches, and it could be more. And I don't see why they should call this game now and try to rearrange it somehow. Um, you know, I just think the whole idea of waiting until the last moment to do these sort of things seems kind of foolish. So just my thought, because
Yeah, they only have a limited amount of time before, they have to make that decision, really. I mean, it's
yeah,
Wednesday night, right, as we're recording this, and the game's supposed to be Saturday afternoon, and a lot of games have already like moved times or postponed altogether.
there is no safe window there because North Carolina will be getting a lot of that precipitation before Virginia. Well, it depends on what part of the state you're looking at, the states, but you know, if you come and you play in Virginia and you're up in Charlottesville, which is right next to the Blue Ridge Mountains, you're going to be getting hit sooner than you would if you're down in Raleigh. Okay. So if you come up, you play, it's a couple hours, and then you turn around and you think you're going to be heading back um, in a safe fashion back to North Carolina. I don't think that's going to happen. So you're going to be stuck in Charlottesville. See, that's where I think, call it as soon as possible. There's already a state of emergency been issued by the governor down in North Carolina. I, if it hasn't been already declared in Virginia, I'd be surprised. With that being said, it's better not to be foolish. Just get it out of the way and do it and move on. Better be safe. Anyway, that enough of that. Um, that would be a hell of a game, though. I will tell you that this is going to be, one of those things where if they could play,
Right.
this is critical mass time for both of these teams. I think it's more critical mass for North Carolina than it would be for Virginia.
Yeah, 100%. And just the significance of that game, aside from it being two ranked teams, is the court is being named after Tony Bennett. So supposed to have a big ceremony to honor that. And like I said, if we're looking at potentially close to 2 feet of snow, then yeah, you might wanna hold off on that for a little bit.
Yeah, I'd call that. Yeah, that's just me. I mean, I'm, and part of that also uh, because my wife works for the American National Red Cross. She's privy to a lot of information regarding just stuff like that, and our offices are right across the hall from each other, so I hear it all day long. So that all being said, you don't have to listen to me. Um, but I won't tell you I told you so either. So all right. So let's take a little bit of a look at where the net rankings are here for the men at this point. Duke is at number 2. 13 is Virginia. 15, Louisville. 27, Clemson. 28, North Carolina State. 30, North Carolina. 31, SMU. And 35, Miami. Now, again, I've got a note here, more to myself, but I'm just going to say it. This quadrant one action is killing some teams, both on the men's side and especially on the women's side. Because they haven't been playing well, and they haven't been playing Q1 teams, so it's really hurting them. But the men are in a lot better shape this season than they have been in a long time. Look forward to having Jason Carmelo back on, and as soon, because he's going to be coming out with a bracket somewhere down the road here, and I really want to see what his thoughts are when it comes down to how people are playing.
Yeah, just real quick, just talk about the things that a win will do to you. NC State's win moved them from number 34 to number 28 in the net, where Miami's loss dropped them from 30 to 35.
Hmm.
Florida State's win moved them from 133 up to 116. So a win like that will be a Q1 win for the Noles. Ended up moving them 17 spots in the rankings.
Yep. It's huge. It's absolutely important that you win those types of games, or at least that you're close. If you're close in a loss in those games, you're still getting some positive points, or you should be. That's the way the system's supposed to work. Who knows if it actually does, but it seems to be the case most of the time you look at it. So we'll see as we go down the road. The games now from mid-January into the latter part of February are really going to be the critical mass games. Just absolutely, you've got to win. You got to win.
Yeah. And just looking at a couple of important games for this weekend, we talked about UNC Virginia, but Virginia Tech Louisville is a big game for Saturday as well, because Virginia Tech's right there on the bubble.
Yes.
They need a win like this, especially on the road, to get them, maybe on the right side of the bubble. And yeah, we still have 2 months basically until Selection Sunday, but every win makes a difference.
Yeah, Virginia Tech is it's extremely close. And I didn't mention them in the rankings. I could have brought that up because they're, I think, 54-ish, somewhere in there. Anyway, they're like, as you said, Will, they're really
Yeah, exactly. They're 54th in the net.
okay. So if they get a win, like you said, on the road against Louisville, holy smokes, that would be huge. Now, now on the other side of the coin, uh, Louisville is they're 15 right now. Okay, it would drop them down a bit, but it wouldn't take them out of tournament contention. So, but you can't afford to lose these games. You just can't. Um, let's take a quick look at what's going on with the women. And as I said, the women's net rankings haven't been so fabulous at this point. What I've got at number 8 is Louisville, number 17 Duke, number 21 North Carolina, 27 NC State, 28 Notre Dame. Boy, Notre Dame, guys, wow, you are slip sliding away.
And
35 Stanford.
yeah, I was gonna say Notre Dame lost by 38 on Monday night to UConn. Um, yeah, that's not good. Obviously, UConn's number one in the net, but yeah, you don't expect them to lose by 38. And yeah, Notre Dame has been very up and down this season. They're 12, you say they're 20, they're 12 and 6 overall, and they have a quad 3 loss, which is uncharacteristic for them. But yeah, that's Yeah, like overall, like the dominance isn't quite what it normally is. But yeah, you see that when you get into the some of the games, Sunday, Louisville won at NC State by 8. Both of those teams are looking really, really good. But yeah, a lot of teams that are in the league are currently right around 500 in the league, and if you're going to make the tournament, you need to really start playing a lot better and getting into these, and to get into the tournament. And we'll have games on Thursday that kind of reflect that. Georgia or North Carolina, Georgia Tech. We saw even though Georgia Tech's not very good, they've jumped up and won earlier this season, not long ago. So you in addition to getting those wins, you can't suffer debilitating losses either.
Yeah, you cannot. Um, one of the things that you brought up um, in two of the previous programs was Virginia women's basketball uh, in their Q1 quandary. And I was looking at that and I'm thinking, even though they're kind of, from the ranking standpoint, they're really not all that bad. The problem is that you look at that Q1 stat and it's like there's no way in the world they're going to get an invite.
Yeah. And you look at Virginia, they've played 18 games so far this season. 11 of them are in Q4.
Yep.
So that's kind of slippery. And they have that Q4 loss to UMBC. So really, in the first three quadrants, you take a look at their record, they're 3-4.
Yeah, that's not gonna get it done. So, um,
Yeah, 1-4. Or if you just break it down to the first two quadrants, they're 1-4, and that you got to do a lot better than that.
yes. All right. That's a quick look at what sports wise that's going on in the ACC. A lot more coming your way. We're going to be focusing probably a lot more on obviously on basketball at this point because we have moved down from football. But there's a lot of other stuff going on too that's sort of behind the scenes that we'll be talking about. Wrestling and there's swimming and diving. There's tennis going on, golf, and a lot more. There's just a ton of sports. And of course, we're talking about earlier about lacrosse. There's a lot of stuff that cranks up. We got baseball, we got softball. You know, if you love sports, ACC's got it for you, my friend. Hey, make sure that you check out Will over at ACC Nation Net. That's on TikTok. Doing some things there. You've got your first um, review up.
Yep. Doing some I we talked about this a few weeks ago. I was gonna start doing some videos on seasons in review for each ACC team. I just posted the Boston College one. We'll probably have the Cal one up on Thursday sometime in the evening. So if you're up on TikTok Thursday evening or Friday, just look for ACC Nation Net, and I'll be talking about Cal's football season. I'll just be doing them every day or two just to kind of space them out, and then obviously anything that comes from the games of note too.
All right. If you're listening to us right now or watching us on YouTube, just want to remind you that we are available on podcast. You can subscribe to that and have it sent to you in a lot of different ways. You can have sent it to you in your email if you'd like. You can listen to us on streaming radio. You'll also hear our friends from All Sports Discussion over there. They've got some of their programs on streaming radio as well with us. And we are on YouTube. You can watch the program and join us here and make your comments as well. We invite you to join us over at accnation.net. That's our website. You will find all of our social media outlets at the top of the page. Make sure that you follow us on any of those that apply to you. Could be anything from Reddit to Blue Sky to X, you name it. Instagram, Threads, Mastodon, we're all there. Okay? So come join us. we would love to have you on board. Until next time, cheers.
School.
Your source for ACC sports is accnation.net. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, and Blue Sky. For more content, be sure to subscribe.